Hey, welcome to the Extra Podcast. It is good to be back. My name's Daniel Markin, joined around the table by Greg Harris and
Hello.
Jeff Bucknam.
Hello. Hello.
And gentlemen, we are in that season, and you know what season that is, don't you? You know what season it is. We look forward to it every year.
Hunting.
We look forward to it coming, and
Festivus.
we are so excited. And you guessed it, it is Star Wars season.
Ooh.
It
I
is
see
here.
what you did there.
Do you like that?
I did.
I might use that in my sermon this week.
Really?
You should. Yeah.
Try to say space words, though, and see how many people stand up and go, I object! How dare you! You're making fun! Greg, you have a question regarding the Star Wars
here's my
fandom,
question.
don't you?
All right. Let me start off by saying that I enjoy a good Star Wars movie.
Oh, yeah, some of the best movies ever made.
Star Wars. Here's my problem. There's this like weird Christian subculture thing where if you don't like if you're not obsessed with the like fantasy world movies and books, like Narnia stuff, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, like these are normal things that Christian people in a Christian subculture just like assume everyone likes.
And if you say something negative about them, then they freak out. Or if you say that you kind of like some things that that like, for example, the Star Wars culture says that you don't, you're not supposed to like. Like honestly, at the early, so the first. I don't even know how to say this. Okay, for me, the first three movies on the Star Wars were the I guess episodes 4, 5, and 6, and then the second three were episodes 1, 2, and 3. I liked the 1, 2s, and 3. I thought they were pretty good. I thought they were fine. And you know who I didn't mind?
JarJar
Binks. But you say this, JarJar Binks is from the devil.
Dude, it became one of those trendy things to hate. It became like, everyone's going to hate Jar Jar? I'll hate it. Oh, everyone's going to hate Nickelback? I'll hate Nickelback too.
He's awful, JarJar Binks. How dare you? Right now, in the ears, some people are bleeding. Their ears are bleeding right now because I just said Jar Jar Binks should not be expunged from the entire thing.
I'm going to say this right now.
How dare you?
I'm going to go on the air on this live show and say that the prequels are masterpieces.
Stop listening. Fast forward it.
Maybe not Jar Jar, but my goodness.
They weren't bad.
The plot, everything going on. It's pretty remarkable.
But that's my thing, though, in the end. And if you get it wrong or you make a mistake one time saying, wasn't Lieutenant Picard in that? How dare no, that's Star Trek. Star Trek, you idiot. They have Worf and those other things.
Yeah.
It's like with Lord of the Rings. What's the difference between a dwarf and an elf?
I know. Don't get that one wrong. It's like you just.
Are we talking like a Christmas elf?
Don't you understand where they come from?
No, they're tall. They're tall elves.
Haven't you read all of those books?
Did you not read the Silmarillion in chapter 7? Tolkien goes through explicit amounts to make sure you know the elves came across with the 7 Silmarils.
Here's a hot take for you.
How can you make fun of
Glorfindel.
You're not allowed to make fun of The Hobbit.
Is that because
and then they got mad.
Is that because Tolkien's dead, Jeff?
No, and then they got mad that Peter Jackson turned The Hobbit into like 3 movies. Actually, they're pretty good movies, right?
I haven't. Here's my hot take. It's not a hot take. It's just something about me.
Medium rare take.
I haven't read any of those books by like Tolkien and Lewis. I've just seen the movies.
No, I haven't
and when
either.
People get all mad at me.
I read The Hobbit when I was a kid.
Okay.
But I have not read The Lord of the Rings.
I read
trilogy.
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Somewhere right now, Kyle Meeker is feeling a cold shudder down his back.
Dude, I will tell you this.
There's somebody involved in Christian things who's not actually read The Lord of the Rings.
Well versed.
What? They don't know who Glorfindel is? Do you know what's one of the worst? Okay, let me say this. I read the first Lord of the Rings and then half of Two Towers, and then it just got distracted. The first half of Fellowship of the Ring is probably one of the most boring reads you will ever have in your life.
Easy.
There's 7 chapters of them walking beside a horse and singing songs. And then do you know in the movie when Frodo gets stabbed? And they're like, there's a big rush, and Arwen's on the horse, and they're running away from the 9 wraiths. Yeah. In the book, he gets stabbed.
I don't really, but yeah.
In the book, he gets stabbed, and then this other elf, Glorfindel, shows up, and he says, "Oh, I know the way to Rivendell." And then they walk, and they sing songs, and it takes them a number of days at just a slow saunter to get to Rivendell. Meanwhile, Frodo's dying.
Yeah.
Anyways, do you ever think that Tolkien was just at this point thinking, "I wonder how much people will put up with this drivel"?
Totally.
Right? How far can I go with these fandom books? Well, this is the most important part of the books. It establishes all the characters.
See, I almost feel like being the devil's advocate and sticking up for it now because we're all on the same page. If you had a Kyle Meeker in here,
Listen, has had cultural impact, and because Tolkien was part of this foundlings group or whatever they were called, him and Lewis and whoever else was part of this group that was Christian-y, and yes, there's all sorts of biblical imagery in it, and I'm all for that stuff like that. Here's what I don't get. Some of the same people who are right in it with the Lord of the Rings and the Narnia stuff think that Harry Potter's from the devil. So I'm trying to understand.
Because it is, Jeff.
But I'm trying to understand the difference in genre. That it seems to me that it's still dealing with issues about good and evil and those sorts of things, and there's magic involved and whatever. But because one of them was named C.S. Lewis or J.R.R. Tolkien, and the other one is a lady who changed her name so not everybody would know her, right? I don't totally. I've actually read some of both of them, and they seem very much along the same genre, making some of the main points. Listen, if you're out there right now and you are thinking you just desecrated all,
her name's J.R. Tolkien.
I would actually be interested in hearing like why. I actually am interested because I don't know why such a distinction between these books.
All right.
I'll take a stab at it.
Jeff has opened up the door to the fan theorists in the world of Lord of the Rings, Narnia, and Harry Potter. This can't go wrong.
Okay, what would it take for you to go to a Star Trek reunion thing? Would you dress up?
Reunion?
Oh, like a Comic Con. If you go to a Comic Con,
yeah.
You go down to Seattle and everyone's dressed up and you're...
Would you do it?
I don't think.
Who would you go as? Jabba?
If someone... we go at the VIP.
Star Trek. I use Star Trek. Stop mixing them.
Go dressed as Jabba. That'd actually be fun. You wouldn't be expected to move. It's great. You know what? I don't think even if someone paid my way, there, and gave me a hotel for free,
you wouldn't do it.
You would not if it included going to the actual Comic Con.
Okay, what would it take for you to dress up at the Comic Con?
See, here's the thing.
Sure, everybody's got a price, Greg.
I would.
If there's one thing we learned from Han Solo, it's that everybody's got a price.
Let's say like a reasonable price of what I would.
The Millennium Falcon.
Let's say I would go.
Should we fire up the Harbor Drive?
If someone gave me $10,000.
That's it. Okay, $10,000.
That is a lot of. You're kidding me. You do it for $1,000.
What would you dress up as?
I don't know.
Princess Leia.
Yes.
Yes.
I would go dressed up as Princess Leia if someone gave us $10,000. I would do this. If someone paid my way to go to Comic-Con and gave me $10,000 cold hard cash, I would go dressed as Princess Leia.
So one person goes as Princess Leia, but who goes as Jabba? You need your Jabba.
Everybody needs a Jabba. I bring Benji dressed up as Jabba.
Your son.
I'd carry Benji around with me as a mini Jabba.
A mini Jabba. Oh, man.
Guys, this could happen.
Guys, this is we're off to a good start here.
It could. I was in Rhode Island recently, and they had the Comic-Con was immediately preceding the Evangelical Theological Society. Yeah. So, but it was just ending the night that we arrived. It was just ending. They were having their little party, but nobody was dressed up as a as a character. I think the people who were there were the ones who were like organizing it and stuff. So
they're celebrating the.
That's the closest I've ever been to a Comic-Con.
They're celebrating a Jabba well done.
Rumors are Al Mohler was there. He took in both conferences.
Totally.
He did. He was there, actually.
At Comic-Con?
Yeah. Well, no, he got there, and I think he took a picture of Comic-Con.
Here's 7 theological reasons why you should be watching Star Wars 1 through 7 in sequential order.
I'm Al Mohler. Welcome to The Briefing.
I'm Al Mohler. Welcome to Comic-Con. Gentlemen, this is a good start, but I want to get into some business talk. I want to talk about some questions that we've had sent in by the listeners.
Are you going to go to the Star Wars, though, before we should probably...
Yes, I am.
Yeah, of course you are. Why wouldn't you be going to the Star Wars, right? Although...
I wasn't lying. I wait all year for this.
Spoiler alert. I think The Last Jedi's the girl.
Uh-oh.
So
no, I think it's Luke. I think she's going to be a gray Jedi. And
she's going to be a what?
She's going to be...
A gray Jedi.
It
doesn't matter.
Dear.
What does
Friends,
that mean?
Oh, dear.
A gray Jedi means she balances the light and the dark.
I don't
That's a whole new kind of Jedi.
There's only been 3 of them in existence.
Was Yoda one?
No, Yoda was so dogmatic in the light.
Oh, he was dogmatic. That was his problem.
He was 900 years old. Only the Jedi.
You're going to get stuck in your ways at 900.
He was so dumb.
You know?
He wasn't open to new ideas.
No, he's seen it all.
Yoda, can we change the carpet color in here?
It wouldn't kill you, Yoda, to have a little bit of dark.
See, we have people listening to this right now who are like very mad because we'll talk not at all with mockery about sports.
No.
And they think sports teams are dumb.
That can't be mocked. Sports can't be mocked.
I actually saw real life. One of our elders tweeted, you can guess which elder, who tweeted that with pride that none of his kids could name one single professional athlete, active professional athlete.
Okay, let's all say this elder's name on 3. 1, 2,
Graham
3.
Nickel.
Graham Nickel.
Wait, sorry, I counted wrong. But
it's Graham.
Knowing Graham's skills in math,
oh man. All right.
Okay, first question. Greg, I want to open a can of worms here on you. You're the resident Anabaptist, the resident pacifist.
Well, no, you grew up in the tradition.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I'm an interloper. As I am frequently reminded by many within the tradition, I am an interloper.
What do you mean by that, Jeff?
I mean that I am an unwelcome guest
to the Anabaptist tradition.
Or I'm somebody who comes in from the outside and who is ruining everything.
So I grew up at this church for 17 years. I literally learned what Anabaptist meant last year. I had no idea that these things existed.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But meanwhile, Benedict Option over here is...
I always get chirped for recommending the book. Sorry that I like a book. Okay? Sorry that I think it's helpful in this
He has a one-a-day quota. I think you're getting paid by Rod Dreher to say his.
I am.
Okay. Here's the question, Greg. Is it okay for Christians to carry and conceal and carry weapons, especially with all the the church shootings that we've seen? Maybe you're out and about, and there's an attack happening, and you have the opportunity to actually take action and prevent further harm from happening with your gun, with your sidearm, your firearm. I guess this isn't as applicable in Canada, but just in general.
Sure.
So is it not applicable in Canada? You cannot carry.
I don't know the laws.
Conceal carry here.
I don't think.
I know that the restrictions are much higher.
Yeah, I know in the States you're able to, if you have a.
In some states, only particular ones, I think.
So here's my caveat at the beginning, which is that obviously I'm not going to have a viewpoint that's identical to every Anabaptist on this issue, particularly some professors that I've had in the back in my history through CBC would disagree with probably my take on it now. But
give me your Anabaptist credentials.
What do you mean? Like
Greg
my history
Harris,
with it?
MEI.
Yeah, no, I want to know what case.
Sure. Why? Sure. So grew up Bakerview MB Church.
Okay.
A lot of good MB folk and professors and teachers and stuff go there.
Where did you receive your formal high school education?
At the Mennonite Educational Institute. I went from there to Columbia Bible College, which is a Mennonite school and a Baptist evangelical school. And then
You currently work for a Mennonite Brethren church. You are credentialed with the Mennonite Brethren denomination.
What's that? Is it Menno Fest?
That's a lot of Mennonite.
At TradeX? What is that?
So other than MCC Festival.
MCC Festival.
Other than
my actual ethnic traditional background.
So you are.
I'm ideologically Anabaptist about as far as you could get in terms of my upbringing and my commitments, and yet zero of it in terms of genetic last name. No Harris Brecht, just Harris. So here's my take. I don't think that it is the right of the individual to act on behalf of the state unless they're actually given that authority to do so. So what I mean by that is that I don't actually think it's our responsibility as individual citizens or our right as individual citizens to use force like weapons to subdue a situation like that.
What if the law permits you?
I would still say that that's a place where I think I think that the state has the responsibility and the authority to do that.
So the state solves that problem by allowing you to conceal and carry, though. So they say they say, yeah, sure, you should call the police as well. But in the meantime, by the time you're calling the police, there's a guy in a movie theater who's shooting everybody.
Yep. I would still, my viewpoint would be that I don't think it's our right as individual.
And what's your
Christians.
biblical basis for this? Do you have some? Do you have one?
I'd probably point to Romans. I think it's 13.
Well, the government has a right.
13:4.
Government has a right to bear the sword. It does not bear the sword in vain.
Yeah. So I have zero issues with, this is where I would probably differ from some others in the Anabaptist tradition. I have zero issues with people who are Christians participating in the police force. I don't see that.
So is that
as
a traditional Anabaptist viewpoint, though?
That would
they would make the point about military and violent actions in the military, but not. I have not come across police force quite as much.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard both. I was taught by some that it would be a break in Christian values to even join the police force.
So if somebody is involved, so in our city just recently, a terrible event took place with the killing of a police officer, and we just as an aside are continuing to pray for their family and our city itself to heal, and all the police force who we thank God for. So this happens in our city. Would you say that the person or people who stopped that, who were in the police force, and who stopped it by the use of force, and honestly, the fact that it wasn't deadly force was more providential than anything else, that they sinned?
No.
So what did they do then? So are you going to bar Christians from serving in the police force, but those who do serve in the police force and actually have to use deadly force are not sinning?
This is ultimately,
so why would you bar them?
So this is ultimately why I made that breakaway from the viewpoint that says that to be a Christian, that you couldn't be in the police force, because to do so would be to have to sin. My understanding of Romans 13:4 and bearing the sword of governments and authorities to do that, I think that Christians are able to do that and not sin individually when they're doing so as a participation.
As an instrument of the state.
Yeah. I'd have zero.
State.
I think there's zero.
What if you're not an instrument of the state, though? So I use this example because I had a friend in college.
Does anybody agree with that, though? Like, if you're not an instrument of the state, meaning that you are not endorsed by the state to carry a weapon and to use it for the safety of others?
See, I don't
think anybody, and I don't know of any Christian who would say, "Oh no, that's good stuff."
See, I think there's a difference between like a government permitting someone to carry and a government like authorizing that individual to act on behalf of the government. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's where I would make the distinction is I think if the government has said, Greg, you are now a part of the police force and you're allowed to carry. And now as a part of that, even if say you're not in uniform, you can do what you want as a civilian. I'd say, okay, great. Then I think that removes that issue in terms of, am I doing this as an individual?
You believe, though, by the use of force, though, to stop the oppressor or something to that effect, that they are actually fulfilling their duty as a police officer, and that's been commissioned by the state, which has been put in place by God.
Yeah. And I think...
So they're not sinning.
Right.
But what about... That's what you think.
So here's what I want to...
Is that very Anabaptist? Sorry, is that very Anabaptist?
There would be people who would be listening to this saying that's me. That's
you changing.
That's an example of someone making light of the Anabaptist position or of not taking it as seriously as
So
they
can you
should.
give me the best defense or argument for an Anabaptist position? Is it a Sermon on the Mount here, turn the other cheek? Is that basically the thrust of the argument, that the lifestyle of a Christian should be one that when somebody tries to hurt you, you turn the other cheek, and it should be an act of peacemaking?
Yeah, I think they would ultimately appeal to that. Although, here's again the hard part for me is I think those passages have to do with when people are coming against us,
against me,
not against. Like if I see someone harming Daniel and Daniel does not have the capacity to fight back, the turn the other cheek passage doesn't apply to me in that situation. I think I have a duty to intervene to help Daniel.
So you just said something interesting to me, though, that you said that if Daniel doesn't have the ability to fight back, isn't that the very thing, though, that the way people understand, the way some Anabaptists understand that passage is advising Daniel not to do.
Right.
So in other words, I start hurting Daniel, which, by the way,
easy.
Yeah, I mean,
not that hard.
But I start hurting Daniel. The scriptures, according to some, are telling Daniel to allow me to do this. But you, Greg, are what? Permitted, commanded to stop me?
I think they would, again, I think the normal view would be to try as much as possible to non-coercively reconcile the situation.
Yeah. Which I think is, just in all this discussion, by the way, we don't want to make it...
I think we're always saying the last resort.
This is a this is a nuanced discussion, and there is a lot of merit in the Anabaptist position in the sense that my understanding as somebody who's coming from the outside is that the main argument is that this should not be, that fighting back, that violence should not be in any way the first, even second, third option. That you should seek every available way. Right, to get out from that. I mean, so the advice of an Anabaptist to Daniel isn't don't just sit there and take it, dude.
Yeah,
get out.
Yeah, you can leave the situation.
Try to leave it. Try to end it peacefully, even if though somebody is throwing a fist at you or something like that. Try to diminish it, bring it down a level so that the emotions can. You see what I mean? So that you can get out. So
diffuse it a bit.
It's an active. This is why the language of active peacemaking is used as opposed to nonviolent passivism.
Yeah.
And so the most of the Anabaptists that I know would want that to be stated. And I think there's a lot of merit in that point. The question, though, comes, what is there a point of last resort where you are being injured that you can use force in response and have it be justified? One, and so that's you hurting me. But more importantly, from my point of view, what happens when somebody else is being hurt? Yeah. What responsibilities as a Christian fighting injustice do you have?
Yeah, Jeff, I wanted to, because that's where my question was, with your conscience, how much of that in the moment is the Holy Spirit prompting you to actually take action? Right. So I use this example with my friend where we were having this same discussion, and he was reading Bonhoeffer, I believe. He was saying, like the idea of turning the other cheek is noble, and it's actually Christ-like and whatnot. As he was saying, I said, okay, so brother, if you're on a missions trip and you're in Africa somewhere, and you know that a lot of these villages have been getting hit by terrorists, and they come driving in their trucks with their AK-47s, they come to the town, they shoot everyone up, and they take the young girls away. So let's say you're visiting this specific town, and then over the horizon, you hear people yelling and shouting, and you hear see the dust clouds that there's jeeps coming forward. And a guy, right, like the Bruce Coburn song, the guy throws you a rocket launcher. He says, "Shoot." Do you know what I mean? So you would now be acting preemptively, right? You'd be firing first, right? But the intention is to try and save everyone there, right? I mean, how do you?
And these are the challenging questions, because in the end, it's just basically, so ISIS is coming in. You know what ISIS does. ISIS is coming into a particular region. You know, you have intelligence that tells you it's the case. What is the duty? What is the moral duty in this moment? Yeah. These are the challenge for me. These are the challenging questions about stuff like this because I tend to lean on the belief that the moral duty is to protect the oppressed, to protect those in harm's way, even if it causes me harm. So if I have the ability to stop, even by the use of force, I will do so. I think that people, for example, in was it Flight 93 that during the World Trade Center, the one that was supposed to go into the White House, but these guys who went forward and they put this plane into the ground by the use of force.
They charged the cabin,
right, and they at great risk to themselves. They ended up saving the lives of many. I think that's great. Now, I'm not suggesting in any way that Mennonite brethren or Anabaptists disagree with what I just said there. I can't help but think that principle is one that I think we'd want to adhere to, that if others are in harm's way, that when it comes to the safety of other people, it is the responsibility of those of us to stop the oppressor. I think about this in terms of, this whole Me Too movement recently, and how I actually think that two things. Well, first of all, it's really sad that we live in a world where men have been permitted for so many years to sexually provocate, like to act in ways that are so demeaning to women, first. But second, it's also sad that we've known about some of these guys and nobody has stood up for it. Do you understand? Like we just sort of rolled our eyes. Well, he's just sort of, you know what I mean? Where some of us guys should have been saying, no, that doesn't happen here.
Right.
I think that we are complicit to some degree when we stand by and we watch another person be hurt and we don't actually stand up for it. And I know that there's dangers in doing that, and sometimes we overread things and we need to be critiqued and things for that. But I mean, I've even had situations in my own life in the last little while where I've had to think that through, where I've watched as some other people have stepped in to the gap and tried to protect someone. I think that they may have overread what was going on, but at the same time, I can appreciate the desire.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because I think it's noble to say, no, we're actually going to try to protect people who we think are in harm's way.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes little principles aren't super helpful for every situation, but I think in general, I think it's fair to say that as a last resort, things like force can be used as a reactive way to bring peace and provide defense. I would have a harder time with your illustration, Daniel, of the individual not sanctioned by the state acting preemptively. To me,
so you think they should watch?
I don't know. This is where the tension is, right? It is because if that hypothetical situation was true and the intel was accurate and there was no government authority, no policing around that was giving the go ahead to this, I would have a hard time.
So that's the guts of the question about conceal and carry, though. I think is basically, you're not a government. There's nothing wrong with carrying. I don't think there's anything about carrying a gun any more than carrying a knife or carrying a.
Right.
I don't know. There's lots of things that can be weaponized and lots of weapons that are weaponized, but I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. It's the use of it that we're talking about. So. And because carrying it means that you have it so that you can use it.
If we're carrying, are we trying to take God's sovereignty in our own hands?
Yeah, but could you say that about nearly everything, though?
No, exactly.
Like using a seatbelt is taking God's sovereignty in your own hands. I mean, if the Lord wants you to die in that car, He's going to kill you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying that I think. I don't know if there's anything wrong with it, and I do think the people who are concealing and carrying are thinking to themselves, I'm not just here to protect. I know some people who have conceal and carry permits in the U.S. and their attitude is, no, I'm not here just to protect myself. I'm here actually to protect others. Now that creates, in my opinion, a lot of mercenaries. I think, Greg, that's my concern. Your concern is that you end up, is the world going to be a safer place with more guns? That NRA in the state says, yep, that's right, because, it's a deterrent. Right. It's a deterrent. I'm not persuaded. That's probably the case. Yeah.
But then on the other side, you have people who said, well, it takes an average of 7 minutes for the police to arrive, and it takes 7 seconds to let off a round if you're there.
What's interesting, though, is that you're assuming what all of that does, though, is it assumes the moral goodness of the person who's concealing and carrying, though, isn't it? I mean, there are bad guys out there, and we need to stop them. We being the morally good people, which I can understand the feeling there, but I don't know if we're always in the right. I don't know if I'm the kind of person who. Should always be trusted. Should always be trusted with deadly means. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes we just get incensed. This is the fear everybody has about Donald Trump in the States. This particular person with his character and he seems to be fly off the handle at times, as shown by Twitter and stuff, is also the person who's got his finger on the trigger with all the nuclear weapons and stuff. Now that might be unfounded because Donald Trump might be a better guy than many people think he is, but. That's a legitimate fear that we have, though. Yeah. even really good guys get mad.
Yeah.
And in an unwarranted fashion, their pride gets hurt. And if they have the means, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also think it's an addition to this conversation is that I think just because someone is sanctioned and given the authority by the state to do these things doesn't mean that every time that they choose to act is justified. Like, I think it's good that every time an officer shoots his gun, that there's a review that takes place from outside of their whatever academy or whatever by an outside onlooker to say, yes, that was a justified situation,
which is a
or no.
check and balance against
Totally.
against what the thing I just mentioned.
Yeah, right,
we're
exactly.
all given sometimes to, even police officers at times are being thrust into situations where they're, the tensions run high and they're being disrespected, and you know what I mean?
And you have to make a call.
And you have to make a call, and sometimes you make the call that is certainly wrong or should be reviewed as actually this was excessive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, we solved that.
Yeah, I think we did.
Not really.
Easy.
Not really. For the person who sent that in, it's a very difficult question that lots and lots of people have to deal with.
So can I just close it with
real
this
terms.
then? If you were in the situation, because this is what I've always thought, ethical dilemma for me is if I ended up trying to save someone's life and I took their life, like the attacker, they ended up dying, would God still have forgiveness upon me?
God has forgiveness upon everybody who repents and believes in the Lord Jesus. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that, I don't know if I want to phrase it the way you did, but do I believe that the question I'm having is, have you sinned?
Mm-hmm. Like manslaughter.
Yeah. Have you sinned against God if you were protecting other people?
Yeah, that's more.
If you were protecting other people and you don't have the instrument of the state, I think what I hear Greg saying is yes, because you're not the person who's.
I don't think individuals have been given the right to take life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I would agree that there's forgiveness, but I would say that would have been a morally wrong mistake, perhaps, but still wrong.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, gentlemen, we solved that. We have time. We have time for probably one more topic. And some of this, what we're talking about, is a little bit of kind of eschatology. We mentioned some of the end times, the justice of God or whatever. Do you guys see...
eschatology means just end times for those of it.
Yeah, end times. Do you guys see, for example, in our church today, in our current culture, our current church culture, lots of work of over-realized eschatology?
What do you mean?
I think what I mean, and correct me here, but is that the kingdom is here now. And we are now living in those end times, and because we're living in those end times, it is our duty now to do all of God's work and usher in the kingdom with our own efforts.
So, one of the things that I find in conversations in classrooms and stuff, one of the most helpful things that I think I tell people in a lot of classrooms is the biblical emphasis on the already not yet nature of God's kingdom or of salvation. So what I mean by that is that the kingdom's already here in the sense that Jesus has come, he has ushered in. That's what he said when he started, right? Repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. He meant that in his person. When you read the Sermon on the Mount, what you're reading is basically kind of like a kingdom manifesto sort of thing. This is the way things work in my kingdom. This is the kind of life I expect from people living in my kingdom. So it's a great discipleship text in that regard. So the kingdom's already here. And yet, and along with it are things like healing and provision, and we would say even prosperity, right, in the kingdom for those who believe. But there's also a not yet that you get. So you need Paul in Romans 8 will say that we've received adoption to sonship, and yet in the following verses later he says we eagerly await our adoption as sons. So what? Mm-hmm. How did you receive adoption and you eagerly await it? Well, that's an interesting image. I guess you could put it this way, that you've received the papers for adoption. You have been adopted, but you're still awaiting the actual gathering to your parents. So it's real. You have a father who loves you. You have an Abba, as he says in Romans 8, but you're also awaiting the fulfillment of that. So you kind of live between the times there. I think that that's a good image. I think the battle has already been won by Christ on the cross against Satan and all of his minions, and yet the final battle is so it's basically D-Day has happened. It's in there's not going to be anybody pushing back in a successful way against the movement of God's kingdom, and it's going to come in its fullness. There is VE Day or VJ Day is on the horizon, but we live in between those times, and there's a tension in between those times between emphasizing what's already true about us, right? By his stripes you are healed, Isaiah 53. And yet on the other hand, we're not yet healed. So sometimes when you ask, is there overrealized eschatology in the church? What that means is, are there a lot of people saying these days that the fullness of the kingdom is here and now, and we should expect a life, an abundant life, of fullness that is going to be ours in the eternal state, but currently now. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say no. I don't think we should expect that. And I think that one of the real problems in a lot of Christian churches these days is that they overpromise what life here and now is going to look like. What life here and now is going to look like is what we groan inwardly, like in the pains of childbirth, which is another great image, right? The child is coming; it's guaranteed, but not yet here. Already. But not yet. And so this tension is something that we constantly live with. You have freedom from sin's power, but you don't have freedom from its presence. You will have freedom from its presence. Mm-hmm. But the reason that you struggle with sin is not because you haven't been freed from it. You have been freed from it. You can have legitimate success in following Jesus, and yet not fully yet, right? Mm-hmm. So you should expect a challenging Christian life. You should expect flesh and spirit to be waging war against each other. And even though you can at every turn choose to follow the spirit, you oftentimes follow the flesh, and that's pretty normal. Yeah.
Well, and I think another element to this is that we, as like James will tell us, like elders should be praying for people, laying on the hands, pray for healing for people. And that's a good thing to do. And God very well may frequently bring healing to people's lives through these things. And yet the kind of healing they'll receive is temporary. Yeah. Like their bodies will eventually, unless the Lord returns, their bodies will break down. They still will die. So this is part of some of the cultures and churches that have like healing ministries as like the thing. I have a hard time with, because sure, someone might be healed for that season, but if the evidence of God's saving presence is his activity in healing all the time, I just have questions, because eventually the person's going to get sick from something else, or they're going to die from something else. And so what do we do there? So there has to be an admission, even among the people who are the most zealous, saying that healings always need to occur. Surely, if you had them in a room and you talked to them about this, they would say, well, yeah, we know that person's eventually going to die still.
Yeah, I think they do, but I think that it depends on who you listen to. There are those who argue that, the ministry of Jesus, which was the kingdom in its fullness, right? When Jesus came, that's why healing attended it. That's why miracles and all those sorts of things should be normal. There are lots of churches. I meet people frequently who make pilgrimages to churches like this, that make this claim. On the one hand, the half-truth that I want to agree with is, yes, the kingdom is here in its fullness, and people will be healed when we ask God to do it. That's why he tells us to lay hands on them and pray for them. Yeah. He also will do miracles where he chooses, and we should seek the Lord and ask him for the moon. Trusting that he doesn't give, a stone when his children ask for bread. However, on the other hand, if you're overpromising people, what you're doing is setting them up for a very dangerous kind of fall. And by fall, I mean like a real letdown regarding who God is, what he does, and whether or not he's come through. This is the kind of thing, quite honestly, that leads to burned over districts. Do you know what I mean? By like in upstate New York, where the Second Great Awakening happened, there was all these promises of spiritual life and excitement and stuff, but it didn't really take. People were overpromised things. And now if you go to that part of the world, it's very difficult to proclaim the gospel there, because you have all these people basically saying, listen, we've been there. My parents been there, done that. right? We tried all this stuff. We were promised all these things, and it didn't actually happen. When the truth is, you should have said, actually, the current Christian life is a mixture of great joys and still sorrows, right? We groan inwardly as awaiting. And
that's why I have a hard time. So this just is one word, but often I'll hear the gospel described as a life of abundance. You're gonna come and experience Christ and live this life of abundance
eventually,
that He has promised you. Well, but then because on my side, I'm thinking, well, there's also an abundance of bad too in your life.
Right. Eventually.
So, like, what do we even mean when we say abundance? Are we just trying to sell people this Jesus movement, and you're gonna feel so good all the time? Like, I just have a hard time with that word.
So Joel Osteen has a magazine out. They're doing a magazine, which I thought was remarkable. That it's at a newsstand. I was in the States the other day at Fred Meyer, and on the Fred Meyer newsstand, it has, like, when you're walking through the checkout counter, there's Joel Osteen. Like Vogue 17 or whatever it is, and Joel Osteen. And Joel Osteen, on the front page of his picture, Joel Osteen, and it says, do you have the abundant life? Or do you want, like, a life of abundance, I think is what it said. And I've heard him before on this, and his argument is this very point. He's promising a kind of life that is promised in the scriptures for the fulfilled kingdom. Okay? He gets language from the Psalms and other places, but about the fulfilled kingdom. The problem is he doesn't balance that over and against the reality that we live. We're not there quite yet. We're not there yet. So is there a danger for us always emphasizing the not yet? Yes. It means that we don't sometimes live in the already. We end up thinking that this life is one of constant defeat to sin, and you never will get, that can be the case. And you never ask God for healing. You never expect it, because God doesn't do that. And this life is just going to be, drudgery until we get to heaven. That's a danger. But the other danger, which seems far more prevalent these days, quite honestly, is that what you should expect from your life is victory over victory over victory over, and if you're not experiencing the victory, it's because something's going on with you. That you don't either have enough faith, or you're not going to the right church, or you haven't like done the stuff,
giving enough money of yourself.
Well, right. There's certain things that you can do to move God to give you the things that He's promised. So language like activating your faith, or a whole series of kind of rituals, which sound, quite honestly, like Western versions of visiting the witch doctor, right? Go take a couple of chicken bones and mix it together with the blood of a goat, and
boom.
But we don't do that. We say, well, go to church and give a certain amount of money. Go to church and visit with the pastor, or be under the anointing ministry of another. So
go in your closet and claim the things you want,
right,
and repeat them,
right. But what we're telling people is to expect the kind of life that isn't actually the kind of life that God's promised in this present time.
Right.
He has promised it in the renewed kingdom, in the fulfilled, consummated kingdom.
Yeah.
But in this present time, the descriptions are different than that. And I just think that this is what it means to teach the whole counsel of God and remind people of those things.
It's interesting hearing sometimes when this is taught, people will say, well, when in Jesus' ministry, when he was healing people, he never passed up opportunities to bring healing to people. And that's where, as someone who's reading the scriptures, you want to ask questions like, well, really? Because sometimes there were whole crowds of people asking for healing.
He goes to the other town because they needed to preach to them as well.
I'm going to go. No, sorry. I know that there's like actually hundreds of you asking for my help, but I'm going to go. And so when we use the descriptions of Jesus's healing ministries, which were real and valid and powerful and legitimate, when we use those as necessarily prescriptions for what we should expect in our Christian life, it's where we just aren't really reading very fairly to what the authors are trying to do. They're not trying to make the point, hey, Jesus is always going to bring healing in every single circumstance.
Yeah.
Actually, they seem to go out of their way to say that he won't.
Yeah.
In some circumstances, he'll have disciples of his, people who believe him, who want to follow him, who want healing from him, and he goes to a different town.
Yeah.
And so, but you don't hear that passage.
Oh, there's lots of passages
quite as much.
You don't hear, right? Like everyone who wants to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will suffer. There's a verse that is not frequently quoted.
Yeah.
Abundant life is, but you don't hear. My point is, both of those are true.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
That there is a promise of abundant life. You will experience portions of it in the present world because of this, of the ministry of Jesus to you and the Spirit's presence with you. Mm-hmm. But you will also experience pain and heartache as a normal part of following him in the present world.
And an abundance of that.
Right. And what you find, what's crazy about it is that you end up finding people end up becoming counselors like Job's friends. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, so you're suffering. It's got to be because you did something wrong. Did you follow the protocols? Are you sitting under the right teacher? Did you go to the right, like this other guy, he heals. That one that you're talking to there, he doesn't do it. So, because the reason people suffer is because they've done something wrong or there's something missing or whatever.
God wants to.
Right.
You just haven't activated it.
You
yet.
haven't figured out the keys to do it. And so there are special people among us who can tell you the keys oftentimes for a little bit of money. Right. And then they can say, look at me, I live the abundant life because I have all these. Of course, at times those very people end up dying quietly, just so you know, like Eddie Long recently or Paul Crouch. And then everyone's like, well, what? Wait, what? How did he died? Yeah, because he lives in the very world that we're describing. Okay, and you paid him a bunch of money so that you wouldn't experience the very thing that he's experiencing now. Yeah. You're just hurt. It hurts people in the end. It hurts people in the present world. It makes them expect things that aren't true of their life, and then they end up getting frustrated with God. And in my opinion, sometimes abandon the faith or change the faith into something else. And that's where, to me, it's a massive, massive problem.
Well, guys, we literally answered everything in this episode.
Wow.
We are so good.
Misa likes it so good, sir.
Oh, good.
And you like that?
Full circle.
Little Jar
Jar Jar Jeff. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week.